The year is 1975. Hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese refugees have just fled the fall of Saigon. A fraction of them arrive at Hope Village, a resettlement camp in Northern California. Massive ambition, almost zero capital, and a language barrier that locked them out of the traditional American economy. Inside that camp, a Hollywood actress makes one very specific decision. A decision she believes is basic charity. What she actually does is hand a group of displaced women the exact structural blueprint to hijack an American industry and hold it for 50 years. Today, the American nail industry is valued at roughly $8.5 billion. Over half of that market is controlled by a single ethnic diaspora, a near monopoly engineered entirely from a single 20-person graduating class. This is the complete breakdown of how they did it. Hollywood actress Tippi Hedren visits Hope Village as part of an international aid mission. Her plan is straightforward: teach the women basic clerical skills, typing, sewing, basic entry-level skills that could get them employed fast. It does not go as planned. The women notice Hedren's professionally manicured nails and ask about them, not because they are dazzled, because they are doing what people with nothing and everything to gain always do: scanning for an opening. Hedren immediately identifies the same structural gap they do. Typing requires English syntax and grammar, which takes years to acquire. Painting nails requires manual dexterity and visual precision, which these women already have. Hedren scraps the clerical program entirely. She flies her personal Beverly Hills manicurist, Dusty Butera, directly into the refugee camp. Butera administers a grueling, technically rigorous, 350-hour cosmetology training program. One class of exactly 20 Vietnamese women completes it. They receive their official California state licenses. Hedren thought she was giving a handful of refugees a basic entry-level trade. She vastly underestimated what highly motivated people with nothing to lose can do with a structural advantage. These 20 women did not just find jobs. They became the seed nodes for an $8 billion commercial empire. Before 1975, the American manicure was strictly a luxury product. A standard appointment at a high-end Beverly Hills salon ran $50 or more. It was reserved entirely for wealthy women. The newly licensed graduates had no realistic path into that market, so they did not try to compete in it. They engineered a completely different business model. They stripped salons down to the bare concrete. They stripped out waiting rooms, premium branding, and marketing budgets entirely. They focused purely on volume and rapid execution. By slashing overhead to the bone, they dropped the service price to $15. That single move triggered a structural market disruption. They did not just steal existing customers from luxury competitors, they unlocked an entirely new consumer demographic. Working-class women who had never had access to a professional manicure in their lives. They opened storefronts in neighborhoods and declining strip malls, in every overlooked corner of every city that luxury operators had never bothered with. Customer volume exploded overnight. The discount model was brutally efficient and highly profitable. But controlling a local market is not the same as controlling an industry. To scale this into a national monopoly, they needed labor, trusted labor, thousands of workers they could rely on absolutely, and they had a very specific mechanism available to get it. The United States immigration system contains a structural choke point. To secure a visa, you typically need guaranteed employment waiting for you in America. The Vietnamese diaspora used their storefronts to hack this requirement directly. A salon owner would establish her business entity. She would immediately use that legal structure to officially sponsor her sister, then her cousins, then her aunt is still stranded in Vietnam. The salon provided exactly the employment paperwork the federal government required. The new arrivals stepped off the plane directly into a guaranteed job. Inside a family-operated business, surrounded by people who spoke their language. These workers lived frugally and accumulated capital fast. Within roughly 2 years, many had saved enough to open their own salon. Then they initiated the exact same sponsorship loop for the next wave of relatives. This self-replicating mechanism drove the demographic takeover. It pushed national ownership past 51%. In California, concentration breached 80%. It was not luck. It was not charity. It was a network algorithm running through a legal immigration framework, compounding year over year. Operating purely at the retail level leaves you exposed. Every dollar paid to an outside beauty school is margin leaking out of the community. Every dollar paid to an external chemical distributor is margin leaking out of the community. The Vietnamese diaspora recognized this clearly. They executed a massive structural pivot. They stopped sending recruits to traditional American cosmetology schools. They launched their own Vietnamese-owned beauty academies, native-speaking instructors, culturally familiar environments, a continuous pipeline of trained community-integrated labor. They bypassed external chemical distributors entirely. They pooled capital and purchased the industrial warehouses, supplying the raw acrylics directly. They even replaced outside commercial contractors. They formed specialized construction crews dedicated exclusively to building out nail salons. The economic loop sealed shut completely. Capital stopped leaking out of the community. It bounced between internal nodes and compounded aggressively. Education, raw materials, construction, storefronts, every node in the supply chain was now internal. This closed-loop architecture minted multimillionaires across the diaspora. But securing this monopoly required a sacrifice that never appears in any business school case study. The acrylic boom of the 1980s and 1990s was built on a chemical foundation, quietly destroying the people running it. Early salon formulations relied heavily on methyl methacrylate, MMA, a liquid monomer used in acrylic nail application. Chronic MMA exposure causes severe respiratory damage, persistent asthma, and serious dermal injury. Ventilation standards in early storefronts were virtually non-existent. The first-generation workforce knew exactly what they were breathing. Chronic headaches, persistent asthma, serious skin damage, they reported all of it. And they made a deliberate, calculated trade. They absorbed the chemical damage so the generation behind them would not have to. They worked 12-hour shifts in poorly ventilated rooms so their children could afford American medical schools and law schools. They traded their own physical health to ensure the next generation could bypass the traditional American corporate ladder entirely. That is not a metaphor for sacrifice. That is a precise generational wealth transfer paid for in lung tissue. Today, the American nail industry generates roughly $8.5 billion annually. More than half of it flows through Vietnamese-owned businesses, and the financial impact did not stay inside California strip malls. The cash generated by these $15 manicures powered billions of dollars in international remittances back to Vietnam. That shadow capital stabilized entire extended families overseas. It funded the reconstruction of communities shattered by war. It seeded businesses, funded education, and rebuilt infrastructure across an entire country, one manicure at a time. What Tippi Hedren set in motion that afternoon at Hope Village was not charity. It was the accidental ignition of a 50-year economic engine. The 20 women who walked out of Dusty Butera's training program did not inherit capital. They did not have political connections, generational wealth, or institutional backing. They had a structural gap, a legal framework they could exploit, and the discipline to run the same playbook over and over, until no outside force could dislodge them. That monopoly has held for half a century, and it was built entirely by the people that America least expected to build it.